The K3 represents a refresh on and a step up from the K3, and the K3 being my favorite DSLR and one of my favorite cameras, period, means that the K3 should be a camera I love using even more. But I left my time with the K3 having mixed feelings. I love everything about it that is a K3, and I loved the pixel shift feature. But I was disappointed in the onboard GPS for astrophotography, though I really liked the onboard GPS as a way to track my hikes, record image locations, and to keep positioning data in the event that I ever need it. This review is going to focus on the GPS and pixel shift features because otherwise the K3 is a K3. And you can't really go wrong with that. For the two notable feature additions, the K3 sacrifices an on-body flash. For most people, myself included, the trade-off of pixel shift and GPS in exchange for the onboard flash would make this camera worth considering at minimum and very possibly worth buying. Were I in the market for a DSLR as I write this, I would pick the K3 over the K3 because of the pixel shift and GPS features. But of those two features, I expected, before getting my hands on the K3 to be most enthralled and in love with the built-in Astro Tracker. I love astrophotography, and the excuse it affords me to sit alone overnight with my cameras in the sky. Few things we can observe remind us of where we fit into the universe better than a dark sky filled with stars, galaxies, and a light record of all history. Add to that the occasional and brief, but noteworthy, end to a multi-billion-year journey, an event we call a shooting star. And overnights are a daily gift that most people never truly experience. So you may understand my disappointment in the onboard GPS not being a step up from the previous hot shoe mounted OGPS. I found the K3's onboard GPS to be less accurate than I was used to with the OGPS unit Ricoh makes for cameras like the K3 and KS2. With the flash hot shoe mounted OGPS unit on my K3, I'm consistently able to get exposures up to 4 minutes, and that includes using a wide array of lenses and camera placements. With the K3 I maxed out at a 161-second exposure. The image had slight star trails, meaning that the stars had moved enough to turn them from circles, like they should be with a tracked image, to squat ovals. I found that the camera's onboard GPS unit became more inaccurate as the camera's lens pointed closer to the sky's zenith. Also, the on-camera GPS was increasingly inaccurate for astrophotography as the lens pointed away from the poles. This meant that I was unable to use a lens much narrower than 10 millimeters for most of the astro tracking I did with the K3 Where the GPS shined was in geo-tracking, creating GPS logs to track my hikes, and allowing me to retrace exactly where images were taken. This, for me, simplified uploads to Panoramio. For photographers, specifically nature photographers, scientists who need to log the location of endangered species or samples, and anyone else who needs a field-ready camera that can track where photos were taken, the onboard GPS is a fantastic performer, and I found it to be accurate to within 3 feet when I was not near obstructions, and to within about 15 feet when I was between skyscrapers or on the sides of mountains where GPS signals were partially blocked. And really, this is the best use of the GPS, and as an added bonus, it uses basically no battery power. I found 0 difference in battery usage with the GPS on and logging compared to off and not logging. But the pixel shift feature, wow, this was fantastic, though not yet perfect. The raw files it creates are north of 100 megabytes, so it fills memory cards like a breakfast rush barista fills your latte with steamed milk, quickly. And it also means that not every computer is going to be able to really fully process them without requiring a lot of processing time. I noticed the lag time on my computer, which is pretty beefy, between editing one or even multiple standard K3.2 RAW images, which are usually about 25 to 35 megabytes, versus the pixel shift images, which were coming in at up to 130 megabytes with some subjects. It requires a lot of computing oomph. But what pixel shift offers is well worth the added time, complexity, and admittedly limited feature usability. When pixel shift can be used, it provides images with exceedingly good pixel level detail and the truest colors I've ever seen in a RAW file. The editability of pixel-shifted RAW files is not like anything I've come across before, and I was consistently impressed by the pixel shift image's ability to recover highlight and shadow detail, correct exposure errors, and to do all of that without significant noise gain. This feature alone is worth picking up a K3.2 for. If you shoot product photography, macro images, still lives, or other controlled subject images, this is a great feature. It also feels like it should be great for landscapes and architecture, but not so much. For architecture, it's great for indoor shots, but building movement and air currents caused by at-building temperature differentials can cause zippering in building details. In fact, I tried a number of outdoor building shots. They all had such severe zippering along changes in contrast, such as windows to walls, that I didn't keep any of them. But the indoor shots turned out decently well. For landscapes, any amount of wind will cause zippering in leaves, and forget about any landscape with moving water. And this is what zippering looks like, by the way. And that is the downfall of pixel shifting. It causes this zipper-like look along moving boundaries. So it is not a feature you can use for all types of photography. But, to that end, many of the features we see on high-end cameras today are increasingly niche. And that's because camera makers figured out how to do all of the basic stuff decades ago, and now they're refining the specialist requirements. Should you buy a K3.2 only for these features? Maybe. But when you look at the K3.2, bear in mind that you're getting a K3 with these added features. And if you elect to get either version of the K3, you can't go wrong, and you will be truly happy with your camera.